morning, everyone, and welcome to another version of our virtual RT rally. And today we're going to have a little travelogue thanks to Karen Bawden from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And she's going to share her Roadtrek adventure traveling from Saskatoon down to Hamilton, Ontario on a trip she made recently. And so we're looking forward to seeing many of the sites and activities that she'll share with us on that adventure. So Karen, we'll turn it over to you and we look forward to your presentation.
Thanks very much, Vincent. Yeah, I think this was the last big trip I did in the Roadtrek before COVID. And I went to Hamilton where my family lives for my parents' 65th wedding anniversary. And they had just given me the Roadtrek a couple of years before that. So we really put it through its paces. And it was just a wonderful way to travel. And I actually picked up my, my cousin's daughter in Winnipeg. And she was traveling in Canada from England. So I had company on the way out to Hamilton, and she went to the anniversary as well. So it was just wonderful to share the trip with her. Okay, I did this trip in just under, 7 days. I wouldn't recommend doing it in 7 days. If I hadn't had to get back for the anniversary, I would have done it with at least another 3 days. Probably you could easily do it in 2 or 3 weeks. There is so much to see. So anyway, that's my parents. They bought the Roadtrek. It's a 2000 Dodge 190 Versatile, and they bought it from the factory in 2000, and they took really good care of it. So it's in wonderful shape for me. And my dad put new tires on it for when I drove it home. So yeah, I'm really indebted to them. Okay, so this is my trip, the overview of it. It's over 3,000 kilometers. And we broke it up into approximately 600 kilometer chunks. That first part from Saskatoon to Winnipeg was probably the worst. That was 12 hours, I think. And that's where I picked my Beth, I'll call her Beth. I picked her up at the airport, and then we went on to Kenora that night, camped at Rushing River. So that's when I was just having lunch, found a little spot by Diefenbaker Lake. A bit off the beaten track, but it was just a lovely day. And because it was early in the year, there was, in all of these campgrounds, there were very few people. It was lovely. Not that I'm all that antisocial, but it was nice. Okay, so that's the first 2 days drive on the map there. That's Rushing River Provincial Park, where we were headed to. And after I picked her up in the afternoon, we made it as far as Kenora. And we were getting hungry, but we went for a hike along the lake. And this is an absolutely amazing lake, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of islands. And it's actually on the border with the States. And there's an awful lot of Americans that own islands, own cottages on those islands. Then we decided we'd make supper in the Roadtrek in a parking lot overlooking the float plane base. Some planes actually took off while we were there. That was fun to witness. Yeah, it was really convenient being in a small vehicle like the Roadtrek, because it didn't take any real space up in the parking lot, and nobody kicked us out. So this float plane base is also on Lake of the Woods. And after supper, we drove to Rushing River. And some of the spots are quite rocky. The whole area is very rocky. And Fortunately, again, with the Roadtrek, we were able to find a level spot, not without too much difficulty. And we certainly weren't going anywhere. Okay, and this is the river that the park is named after. And because it was spring, there was an awful lot of melt they had a really good snowfall that winter, so the river was just quite high. It was quite noisy too. Okay, so the next day we left Rushing River, or we tried to get up early, and we went along Highway 17. And at this part of the trip, it's just mostly, well, we were trying to get a move on, you know, and get a head start. So we didn't stop at too many places except for meals. And there's a Central Eastern Standard Time zone marker that we decided was worth stopping at. So I'll show you a picture of that. Yeah, I had no idea the time zone went through the middle of the province. I thought it followed the provincial boundary. Anyway, moving right along. This is where we stopped the second night. And this is just beautiful. And again, the water was really high because of all the snow melt. So it's a good, spring is, well, May, June is actually a very good time to be going there. And especially before the school kids get out, and there's lots of sites to choose from. And no, the bugs hadn't come out on my trip east either, which was wonderful. It was a bit damp and rainy on the trip out, but we still enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have any questions as I'm going along. Okay, and we went hiking downriver as well, and that was quite spectacular. And it's all really easily accessible from a small parking lot up at the top by the falls that we had no trouble parking the Roadtrek. And the trail, as it doesn't look all that great here, but the trail is quite flat and accessible, even though it's on the edge of the canyon. So it's safer than it looks. Okay, so we had a really nice night in the park there, and it was kind of fun. My cousin's daughter hadn't been to Canada before, especially not the north, so she was just adjusting to the time zone differences, and I don't think she knew how far everything was from everything else, but she put up all my little fairy lights in the trees and the hammock. I should have put that picture in, actually. The campground did have quite a few trailers there, but not overly so. It wasn't overly busy. Now, you see on this map, we stopped the next day, like this day 4, at quite a lot of places. So we should have split this up a bit. We went through Thunder Bay to the Terry Fox Monument. And then we spent a long time at the Amethyst Mine. And then we hiked into Wemay Canyon. We didn't stay there. We kept on because we were running behind. And then we went across the Nipigon River and all the way to Rainbow Provincial Park quite late that evening. So these are some aerial pictures that I took off the Amethyst Mines website. And you can see it's an open pit mine in behind the building with the red roof. That's the store. Can you see my arrow on here? Because is it possible to see where I'm?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so that is a massive fracture where the amethyst has been deposited. And the fracture actually continues up onto that lake. But of course, without some serious pumping, they can't access the amethyst onto the lake. But they're doing pretty good as it is. So there is a relatively big parking lot. What you see over here are all sorting tables, and they bring out, like they do the excavating and then they bring out the rocks to put them on the tables. And for a fee, you can take a pail and fill the pail, and then they weigh it, and you get to pick the pieces that you like best. And these are again pictures from their website down in the pit. But they use high-powered water cannons to blast the rock apart rather than using dynamite, because they damage the crystals less that way. So as you can see in the top left picture, it's the fracture is heavily brecciated, and lots of quartz and amethyst in there. Amethyst is just a purple version of quartz. So anyway, and this was a piece I decided I liked. Can't remember how much that one cost me. They were actually quite reasonably priced. And the rock underneath it is the rock that was all brecciated, and in hydrothermal fluids were injected into it, and then as it cooled, the crystals precipitated out from the hot water. There's the geology bit for you. And this is my cousin's daughter, Beth, picking her samples. And if you don't want to bother with the sampling part, you can go in the store and buy previously cut samples. There's some gorgeous ones in there. Oh, and this was the road. This was the road to Wime Canyon, but it was also very similar to the quality of the road that went to the mine. So it's not a bad road. It had rained, and it was we couldn't go all that fast, but with the Roadtrek, I felt confident traveling along there. My dog's playing with a squeaky toy. Can you guys hear that? Anyways, I will put her outside if she's really annoying.
We thought that was a noise coming from your Roadtrek.
Oh,
I thought you had a bird.
No, she's killing her squeaky toy. So anyway, we hiked. We took that red road. My van, the wheels, the tires were red for another year, I think, after going down that road. And anyway, we hiked in. I think it was about a 20-minute hike to get to the viewpoint, maybe a little less. And this is Wime Canyon, and I believe it was formed after the last ice age, when the ice melted, and that would have been full of meltwater after the last ice age. And that's why it's such a big, deep, empty canyon, because once the water from the ice was gone, then that was it. It just sat there. So, and this is looking north the other direction. It's just spectacular and they have this little overhang. You can look up the canyon. It's not for the faint of, the platform is not for the faint of heart, but you can see it without the platform anyway. And you see there's a little bit of water left down in the bottom right there. So anyway, at this point, I think it was like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and we were hungry, so we got to move on. Oh, and we did see a bear. We did see a bear. He just kept an eye on us as we went by. That's a black bear. Oh, and this I found amazing. You're driving along through the bush on a relatively, it's a good road, but it's not, I think it's not more than 2 lanes. And there, we go around the bend and out of nowhere, there's this massive bridge over the Nipigon River. So that was quite spectacular. You can see a bunch of bugs on my, I took that through the windscreen, so you can see a lot of bugs squished on it. Yeah, Vincent was telling me that and I remembered reading when they first built this bridge, it collapsed within a year and they had to rebuild it. But okay, so that night we got to Rainbow Falls Provincial Park up here. Now, a lot of you probably are familiar with the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald, right? And in, I think it was 1975, it sank over here somewhere. And it was going from this general direction and over here, and the storm blew in from the west. But yeah, so when you're driving through here, there's a memorial on which is, it's very interesting, and there's a beautiful view out over the lake where it sank. If people are interested in wrecks, it's quite a pretty place as well. Okay, and this is one of my favorite spots to stop. And when you're going east on the highway, you go around the corner and everything suddenly opens up, and there's a little road going off to the right, and you've got to be really on the ball there or you miss it because you're coming down a steep hill and then you have to veer off. But it is worth going down to that beach. It's just gorgeous. Oh, and the water was freezing. I did not go in. My Beth's about 25, I think, so she was made of tougher stuff than me. Okay, and this was our next adventure. This is pretty, the trail in is pretty rocky, and you need really good boots if you're going to go in here. It is possible to do, but not in a wheelchair or with a walker. And this is actually a natural chasm. And that's one of the easier parts to walk. And if you notice in the back here, there's a big rock that fell down into the chasm and got stuck there. So it's quite bizarre being in there. It's such a clean fracture, hard to, and then there's steps that they've cut into it. So it's hard to believe it's natural. And this is what we were aiming for. And along those rocks, you can't see it in this picture, are pictographs from the Ojibwe. This is a sacred site, and they were made in the 17th, 18th century, they think. Now, there is a way to get in here by canoe, and if I was to do it again, that's what I would do. I would go in along the shore and just pull up. And they do have anchors to, like, see those ropes there for you to climb out of a canoe and go up onto the ledge there. Oh. So that's, there's supposed to be lynx and sea creatures. It's really amazing. It was definitely worth the effort of going in. And we went near sunset, so it was just lovely. I think this is some kind of big fish. And I don't really know what this is. It looks like the Loch Ness Monster to me. and maybe a lake snake. I don't know what that would be. So this is getting close to where the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. So out from there to the left is where it sank on a much rougher night in November of 75. But it's now just a lovely spot. Okay, so we made it to Thessalon that night, and it was just a lovely spot. It wasn't actually open, but the owner took pity on us and let us plug into his power source in his driveway. The snow was just melting, so yeah, he hadn't opened the park, but they were very friendly. And that's out the front of the park. So just now the next day we made it to most of that day 6 was driving quite quickly. The highway from Sudbury to 6 Mile Lake is, I mean, it looks like something out of Toronto. It used to be a nice little road, and now it's like this massive 6-lane highway. And while we were driving through, they were blasting, and the rock was amazing. I mean, I'm a geologist, so I love that kind of thing, but it was unlike any other road I'd seen blasted through the north. It was just so huge. It was actually, we kept getting stopped along the way, but it was kind of fun to watch them do the blasting. Okay. So I think, yes, so that last bit, we didn't stop anywhere, and most of it was just small villages and small town Ontario. It's very pretty driving. If you go the back way, we were in a hurry to get to the anniversary party, so we missed a lot, but we were under the gun for getting back. So that last 2 days, you could probably do that in a week as well. There are lots of other things to see. So we got there, we had the party, and I stayed a couple of weeks, and then I drove back by myself. And I hit black fly season, which I also don't recommend. So there's my trip back. And those are the provincial parks that I stayed at. I also stayed with a friend in Winnipeg. Shoots is gorgeous, and Nays, Shoots has a beautiful waterfall, and Nays has a beautiful beach. So, and by the time I got to Aaron Provincial Park, I just wanted to be home because the black flies were a nightmare. And that was towards the end or middle of June. So I would not recommend black fly season in Northern Ontario. And this, I just got some flower pictures just for fun. This is the Trillium. I guess most of you here are from Ontario, so you probably recognize the Trillium. And usually it's white, but every now and then you can find a purple one. Oh, and then I forgot. I stayed in Pointer Barrel boondocking in a friend's driveway, and that was really fun because I didn't have to unpack. I didn't have to intrude on her and her family. She let me plug into her car plug, and yeah, I think I stayed there 2 or 3 days before the bugs drove us away. So that was actually from her front lawn. And I just like this picture, just the way the sun sparkled on the water. And that's the Point Barrel docks. You can actually, if you have a boat, you can get a long way through the river systems in the north here. Be a wonderful way to see the north. And that's just another pretty picture from my friend's dock. Oh, and here this is Chutes. This is the first night that I stayed, and I went on a hike up the river and to the Chutes. And that's not really that, it wasn't a difficult hike. And it wasn't very far before I got to the Chutes. And actually from my campsite, you could hear the water all night. So it's like white noise helped me sleep. And a few more flowers. That's bunchberries and wild violets. There were lots of flowers out in June. Okay, and now I'm going back through the north of Superior. Unfortunately, it was a beautiful day. Like the first time when we came out, it was very cloudy and rainy. So I had the opportunity to actually take pictures in the sunshine. They turned out a lot better than the ones on the way there. And I managed to got the Roadtrek up this little tiny gravel road, so I had a better view of the bay. So there was me and one other sports car up there in that little parking lot. It was a bit challenging doing a 3-point turn getting back down. I would have walked, actually, if I'd have known. That's Sleeping Giant. I believe there's a provincial park out there too, and a ferry, I would imagine, to get there. I've actually never been out there. It's on my bucket list. And the Ojibwe calls Lake Superior Gitchigumi, and I believe Gordon Lightfoot refers to it as Gitchigumi in his song about the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald too. But yeah, that's another little shot of the Sleeping Giant. The weather by then was gorgeous, buggy but gorgeous. And I don't know if any of you have heard, I imagine most of you in Canada have. This is the Terry Fox Memorial. Terry Fox attempted to run across Canada from the East Coast to the West Coast in 1980. And this is as far as he got because he had bone cancer. And when he got this far, he couldn't go on, and his cancer returned in his leg, and he did end up dying a few years later. There have been other people. Vincent, do you remember the name of the guy that got right with cancer that actually got all the way to Vancouver? He followed him by a couple of years. And he
I don't know his name. I know Rick Hansen was in a wheelchair and did a similar activity, but don't know anybody who did the walk.
Yeah, and he didn't get much publicity, unfortunately, because he came in. He was in Terry Fox's shadow. But this memorial was very close to where Terry Fox stopped, but it's got a better view up there, so they moved it. I think there still is a little memorial where he actually ended it, but he's a Canadian hero, Canadian superhero. He raised, in 1980, I believe he raised $20 million. And people still do Terry Fox walks annually here in Canada. So his legacy lives on. Oh, and just for fun, if there's anybody that likes museums, Here's a few shots from an amazing little museum near Southport in Manitoba. It's the best little museum I've ever been to on the prairies. It's huge, and the amount of antiques they have from pioneer days is unsurpassed. I've been to a lot of museums out here. Even the Western Development Museum doesn't impress me as much as this did. And to have all those buildings that were moved there in their original condition. And there was a self-guided tour. It took me, I'm slow in museums, but it took me all afternoon. So I got there at lunchtime and I wasn't done until 5 or 6. So they had some lovely stuff, as you can see. And that's me on having supper. That was quite the trip back. That was my last supper after driving the whole way by myself. So it was doable. So anyways, that's it from me. Unless anybody has any questions.
Oh, that's great, Karen. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Lots of interesting stops. And looks like you're into the hiking interest. So you saw a lot of things that some of us may not see if we just drove by and didn't go for a little walk. So any questions for Karen? I'll just remind you, Karen, if you stop your screen, then we can maybe see you a little bit better. We'll entertain some questions now for Karen if anybody has any.
I don't have any questions, Doug, but that was the very first trip that I ever did when I got the Roadtrek. And I was born in Saskatoon and I had never been back. My first home was
so
on 8th.
Now?
I live in Aurelia, which is, of course, very significant for the Edmonds Fitzgerald because of Gordon Lightfoot being from here. But I lived on, I think it was 8th Street North. 832 8th Street North in Saskatoon was where my parents were when I was born. And we left there about 18 months later. And I've been all around the country. I've lived in 5 different provinces. So one of the nicest trips I did was out to Saskatoon. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Swore I was going back, but time moves on and COVID invaded and slowed everything down. So anyway, I've been sticking a little closer to home, but I thought it was very interesting to go on the same trip with you and get your input. And some of the things I saw that you saw and some of the things I missed that you saw, and probably added a few extras, but I had several friends along the way where I stopped to visit, and it was just a lovely trip. Nice to go back out west.
Yeah, how long have you been in your Roadtrek? I know you mentioned your parents bought it originally brand new, but how long have you had it and how long have you been using it?
Well, my dad had an aneurysm in 2015 and he actually completely recovered. It's a miracle. He had a 1% chance of surviving and he survived without brain damage. So he said a lot of people must have been praying for him. And my mom has Alzheimer's and she even had Alzheimer's back then. So he didn't have a license, she didn't have a license, so they took pity on me.
You've had it since 2015? You've had it since 2015 then?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I've
any other questions or comments from some of our other gang here today?
I enjoyed seeing the pictures because I did a similar trip up to Thunder Bay just before COVID and from Hamilton. So a lot of the same parks and places that you visited I'd seen as well and stayed at a whole bunch of provincial parks. So yeah, great trip. One thing nice about Northern Ontario, there's only one road. You can't get lost. You're either on it or not, and if you're not on it, you should be. Anyway, regarding the black flies, it's interesting that you ran into as many as you did as early as you did, but it kind of makes sense because I had my nightmare black fly trip to Temagami, but almost a month later. So clearly,
Oh,
the black flies start earlier the further north you are, and the season happens later the further south.
yeah. By the time I came back, I think it was about June 17th to the end of June.
Yeah, I
So,
was up in Temagami about mid-July, and it wasn't that bad at the campsite, but we tried to go on a hike, and the buzzing in the forest was unbearable, even though we had covered ourselves in bug spray and weren't getting bitten, but you couldn't stand the sound. It was like
yeah,
just a horror movie, just
yeah,
quite
I hear you.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I
I think
wonder if the bug flies. I worked up north in the bush. I must be insane, and because I remember wearing nets and you had gloves, and you had to tuck your pants into your socks and or wear gaiters. But I really relate to what you're saying about that buzz because I think you feel like you're going to go insane with that buzz.
it's just incessant and constant, and not because the bugs are necessarily near your ears. It's the whole forest is
Yeah.
just buzzing. So anyhow, living here in Hamilton, that's what caught my eye for sure on this topic. That I guess you're originally from Hamilton.
When I was a teenager, I lived in Hamilton, and and then I left and I moved to La Ronge. But I was actually working in Toronto and moved to La Ronge. That was quite the switch. But um, yeah, my sister still lives in Hamilton, and my mom's in a care home there. So I go home about 4 times a year to visit my mom and my sister and her family.
You
Usually
said
I fly.
You said you traveled alone, but I can recommend the camping cat behind me here as a
Oh,
possible road companion. The kitty you see on my screen is the ultimate road trekking cat. She doesn't like to go out of the van. She
oh,
sleeps when
that's
you
good.
drive. She's just the easiest kitty to have on board, and she's been
Yeah.
on a few trips with us already, and thoroughly seems, I wouldn't say enjoys it. She just doesn't care. She's she just doesn't think about it at all.
Yeah.
She's really an easy kitty to take with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a dog since that trip, and I'm just getting her trained. And at first, she really wasn't happy sleeping in the Roadtrek, but she's got it figured out now, and she sits on the back passenger seat, looking out the side window, and tries not to fall off if I go around a curve too fast.
Yeah, you might
Yeah,
want to get one of those harnesses that go
yeah,
onto the seat belt kind of thing, and uh,
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
So
One
any
question,
other questions about
just
traveling?
just just one. I'm
Karen?
interested in the year of the road trek. You said was it 2000. I'm just wondering what the mileage is.
Oh, it's over 300,000.
And is
um,
that kilometers or miles?
Oh, wait a minute. No, God, sorry, that's my car. It's over 200,000. I think it's 210,000 kilometers.
Okay. That you got lots left.
Oh, yeah, I like to think so. And my daughter drove it to Vancouver twice. My parents, when they had it, they drove to Newfoundland from Ontario a couple of times. They did once they got going with it, they did 6-week trips to a summer. And they got up to Iqaluit, and oh, they had the most amazing adventures in it.
do you store it outdoors or in a garage?
It won't fit in my garage, so my dad, in all those years, he parked it in his driveway in Huntsville. So I did park it. I feel bad about parking it in the driveway in -40 all winter, but
Do you leave it plugged in, or do you like in order for the house battery or even the
yeah.
chassis battery not to have a problem? Do you leave it plugged in all winter or when you're not driving it?
Yeah, well, I don't, I take plates off in November and I just put them back on in May. Because I did go camping in May when it was below zero, but of course then I can't use the water or anything. So I'm a bit of a wuss these days. So um,
But you leave the electrical plug plugged in
yeah,
the
yeah.
house. Yeah, that's what I do too.
And
Yeah,
I
I
have,
leave mine outside as well. It's on the driveway year round, and I don't take pity on it at all. I leave the roof vent open a little bit and one of the rear side windows so that there's always some air circulation, and
yeah,
that seems to be working so far anyway.
yeah. I have um, I have the power cord on a timer too, so it just it's on at the worst of the night, like from about two till 5. That way, if it gets down to if it's going to get down to -40, that's when it does. So,
Sure.
and then I'm not using all my power up.
And then it's getting charged a bit every day if it's on a 24-hour cycle, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
very
Okay,
good.
I have a question that you likely could answer. If you're hooking up a trickle charger, um, if you just normally do the engine battery, then the house battery doesn't get any charge. But if you hooked it to the alternator terminal on the isolator, uh, would it then charge both batteries on a trickle charge?
It would depend on if you have an isolator, probably not. If you have a separator, then probably yes. Depends on the year of your Roadtrek as to what kind of isolator slash separator you have. On the newer models, like mine's a 2012, and I believe the changeover occurred around 2008-9. You just plug in your van as if you were at a campsite, and the trip light charges both house and chassis, no
Yeah.
problem. But on the older models, it would only if you it would depend where you hooked up your trickle charger, as you point out. And with an isolator, I don't think you could charge both house and chassis simultaneously. Um, I'd have to look into it further, but I'd be a little leery. You'd almost need two trickle chargers to do it properly.
Yeah,
Okay,
mine
thank,
does. When I've got mine plugged in, it doesn't charge the engine battery.
You're just charging the house battery.
Yeah, I have to do the trickle charger once in a while on the actual van battery.
Yeah. And because yours is an older model for sure, if it's a
Yeah.
2000.
So I wonder when, do you know when they changed over?
About 2008, 2009. Some
Um,
people with either of those years have either of the two different devices. So it depends on literally when your vehicle was built in that time frame. But if you're earlier than 2008, you can pretty much guarantee you have an isolator. And if you're after 2009, you can pretty much guarantee you have a separator. And with the separator, you just plug in the van as if you were in a campsite, and it'll charge house and chassis from the trip light, and you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to get a trickle charger or solar, assuming you can plug in. If you're going to connect solar, it's a whole new animal, and that gets into a whole bunch of other electrical issues that are way beyond me and beyond most of us. You need a pro to do it right.
okay, very good. Well, any last minute questions of Karen? If not, thank you so much, Karen, for preparing that presentation. I know it must have taken a lot of time and effort to assemble your photos and get them organized. So it was just great to see your journey coming across some of Western Canada into Ontario. So thank you so much for sharing your adventure with us. I
Thank
also
you.
should report that this past weekend we had a very successful Roadtrek rally down near Newcastle, Ontario, at a location called Our Farm. It was just a delightful venue along a little stream, and all sorts of parking opportunities. You could park in the sunshine, you could park in the shade. We had some great campfire evenings. We had some great musical entertainment with Craig Jones, and my wife as well sang along. And it was all thanks to Paul and Jenny Cruz. It's not Jenny Cruz as her last name, but as she pointed out, she used to go on a lot of cruises. So her Facebook handle is Jenny Cruz, and that's how most of us call her. But they coordinated the event and did a superb job. We had 3 different seminars. We had a silent auction of surplus RVing items, and it was just a great delight. We had, I believe, 22 Roadtreks there, and just a great time of fun and fellowship and sharing of experience and knowledge, and checking out each other's Roadtreks. So keep an eye later in August, because there is rumor that there might be another one in September. So keep an eye on the Roadtrek Canada Facebook page, where the information will be posted, and there'll be an event created, I'm sure. That's what Jenny did this last time. So if you haven't availed of the opportunity to participate in a Roadtrek rally, they're just an absolute great way to meet old friends and new friends, learn more about your Roadtrek, and pick up some tips and operation and maintenance help. In fact, a couple of the more experienced technical guys even did some complimentary repairs for people who were needing little things fine-tuned or fixed of a minor nature. So that was also a big bonus for those of us who were there. So
any thoughts on where that one might occur?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Gary.
Any thoughts on where the next one will occur? I don't recall reading, if there was mention.
I'm guessing it will most probably be at the R Farm in Newcastle again, which is right at the intersection of 401 and Highway 115 going north. The reason I think that way is because that stream is a salmon stream, and in the fall, the salmon come upstream for their spawning. And so I know there was comments about how interesting it would be to have an event there during that fall time period. So I'm guessing that it will be there, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's a very good location. It's pretty difficult to find because you got to go back a winding farmer's laneway to get there. But Paul had put up Roadtrek directional signs, so with his signage assistance, we found it very easily. But if you didn't really have a destination and somebody to guide you, you would never find it on your own. And it's a private farm that they have been able to use, and we chipped in a little bit for each night to help pay the farm for the use of their property. But they have a pavilion and picnic tables along near the stream, lots of open parking. So yeah, it's a perfect venue. It's dry camping, but with a Roadtrek, that's not an issue.
No, that's for sure. I just wish there was a venue to the west of Toronto, because going across Toronto means usually taking the 407, and it's just an obscenely expensive piece of road to travel.
So one of the members from Brantford, Ontario, has suggested that they have a country property, and he threw out the idea that maybe we could just come to his place for a weekend. I don't know that it would be a coordinated planned event, or maybe it would be, but he threw out the invitation that if anybody wanted to come and meet up at his place on the edge of Brantford, that we would be welcome. We also talked about St. Mary's Park, which is a Thames River park, and also one at Pinehurst, which is north of Paris. Those were offered as good potential venues for a rally. So there's a bit of interest, and there's 3 potential locations that were thrown out. I don't know that any final conclusion was made about a definite arrangement or date, but if there was sufficient interest, at least it's the conversation has been started. So if you have an interest, Gary, start a conversation on the Roadtrek Canada Facebook page and see where it goes.
For sure. Well, unfortunately, my September is fully booked. I'll be taking the road trek to my nephew's wedding in Philadelphia, so I'll be gone for half the month already. And as far as September goes, I'm kind of off the grid. October or possibly August are certainly other times when at least I'm more or less around. But I have a feeling, just looking at the attendance for today's Zoom, that a lot of people are out and about because normally these Zooms have substantially more people. So I think that now that summer is here and restrictions are fairly light or non-existent, everybody has scattered, 9 ways to the wind kind of thing,
Well,
especially on the
and
weekend.
just to comment on that, in my speakers association, we discussed the rationale of whether we should record and archive these videos or not, because it does stifle attendance in person. And I do believe the engagement like we're having now is a very enjoyable and interesting part of the session. At least it is for me. And when people know there's an archive video, they may not prioritize their in-person attendance because they can merely watch the video later. And that's fine. And we do get likely more participation of people watching the archive video than we do in person, to be honest. So I'm not saying we wouldn't do it, but that is certainly something that presenters discuss amongst their circles as to the advantage or disadvantage of having archive videos, because it does maybe mean that people will not attend in person and just watch it at their leisure later.
Well, I
But
think I think when the nature of the presentation is a travel log, which is not really an interactive thing, then I think that lends itself to watching it in the future. But when you have people who are talking about the road trek itself, let's say, and a question and answer type thing, a more interactive type of get together, then I think people are more inclined to want to actually tune in because they may want to ask a question, or they literally don't know what's going to be talked about, so their curiosity might be piqued.
yeah, that's certainly true. Depends on the audience. And in our case, we do have a large following from the West Coast, both in BC, Oregon, California. And so it's pretty early for some of those people to come on live. But there are several who do actually. To thank you for those who do get up early to participate from the West Coast. And as you say, they can ask their questions or share their experiences, which is great, because we need that to have a good interactive session. But as many also comment to me that they do appreciate the archive videos because then they can watch them later. So for people in other parts of the world, for our friends in Europe who are RVing and road trekking who watch the archive videos of the West Coast, I think it is a good benefit for many. I get a lot of positive feedback for that. And honestly, it does take a lot more work and effort to get the recording done, to download it, to try and edit it and upload it in a way that it's the redundant stuff is eliminated. And but a person's got to be kind of a dedicated, passionate road trekker or RVer to sit down and watch an hour plus video, because they say the typical interest is 12 to 15 minutes for a YouTube video. So,
But that's where watching it after the fact, at least on YouTube, I know that sometimes, depending on the speaker, I'll put the playback speed at 1.5 or 1.75, and so the hour video is now not an hour anymore, and you still don't miss anything. So there is that advantage in some cases too. I just want to
that's a
throw.
good idea. Or you can fast forward through something that doesn't interest you.
For sure. I want to just throw it out there that I just installed one of those Lagoon tables that are sometimes talked about. It's originally a marine application, where you have an aluminum vertical post and then a horizontal and then the tabletop, and the whole thing can swivel and be positioned where you want. And in the 210 Popular, it's actually ideal for in between the driver and passenger seats, so that because the pull-out table that they want you to use as a front table is not well positioned for the driver to be able to eat off it if he swivels the seat around. So I'm just throwing out there the personal recommendation that that lagoon table that is much better positioned to be able to be used by both driver and passenger to enjoy a meal together with their seats swiveled facing each other. And
Okay. Can you, Gary, could you maybe post a few pictures on the Facebook group,
sure,
and
yeah.
maybe even the source of where you ordered it from? That
Yeah,
I think would be of great interest.
yeah, the source is easy because there's only one place to get it, and that's from the factory. They don't sell on Amazon or anywhere else. So if you want that product and not a knockoff, you have to go to them, and they're very clear about that on their website. But yeah, I'm just finishing the tabletop today. You have to supply your own piece of wood, so I found that I could find, ironically, off Amazon, a really correct sized maple wood cutting board that is ideal as a tabletop. So that I'm just oiling it and getting it all nice, and once it's all together, I'll take some pictures, as you say, and post them.
Good.
For my model of Roadtrek and for ones that are similar, I think it's a huge improvement over what was originally there.
Oh, great. That'll be interesting for us to see. And so just before we wind up, any parting comments from anyone? Thank you for attending and sharing time on a beautiful Saturday morning. At least where I am, it's beautiful and sunshiny. So any last comments?
Just what was the name of that table again?
It's spelled Lagun, and if you Google that, Lagoon Table, you're almost certainly going to end up in the right place. I can
Thank you.
I can
That's okay.
possibly do a screen share quickly here that you can see, just so that you don't, when you do find it, you'll you'll see that you
Recognize
found
it.
the right website.
Yeah.
Just take me a few moments for it to load on my relatively slow and silly computer.
So while
It's
we're
a
waiting for Gary, Ray, have you got any ideas, comments, suggestions to throw in? You're on mute, Ray. Just push your space bar to toggle on your mic.
Ray left town.
Oh, he's there. I can see him, but
I know.
yes,
still muted.
he's on mute. Oh, he shut his camera off, so he may be having difficulty. So we're back to you,
Alrighty.
Gary.
Yep, I found the website. I'll just show you the home page, and I can always scroll a bit. But this is what your website should look like when you find it. And I will just come down a little bit. The thing that you buy is the support system, basically the vertical and the horizontal aluminum pipes, as it were, which are
Okay.
adjustable, and then it comes with a tabletop base, but you supply your own piece of wood to actually be the table. That's
Right.
something they don't sell, and they don't have any particular recommendation. As you can see here, they say they're not sold on Amazon, even though on Amazon you'll find lots of very similar product, but not the
Uh-huh.
original.
Okay.
And that's the gist of it. So it's not cheap. At the end of the day, it's certainly, I would say, a premium product. But I thought, you only buy it once, and the Amazon knockoffs are not significantly cheaper. So you're not going to save any money by going with a non-original. So I would say they're correct in saying buy from us, and they do ship to Canada. They charge an arm and a leg to do it, but they do ship up here, and that it arrived just fine.
Yeah.
Good, thanks, Gary. I see Ray's now got off his mute, so go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, okay. So I'm on my tablet here and I'm struggling with it a little bit. I'm not used to it. But when you were talking about events, last year I did this Bayview State Park thing here in Washington State. And honestly, I put it up on a couple of Roadtrek sites that I was going to be there and invited anyone and everyone. And we ended up with 17 Roadtreks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a good event. We're doing it again this year in August, and as of right now, we have, I think, 21, maybe 22 registered to come.
I missed where that was going to be.
It's in Bayview State Park, Washington State.
Okay.
If you're interested, go into the events on this site, and we're somewhere in there. And
it's about a 6,000 kilometer run from where I am.
I know it is. But
it's a little bit far, but it's a great idea and sounds like you're going to have a great time.
Yes, we really did, and I think almost everyone that was there last year is coming back again this year, and a few more. So, yeah. And other than that, I just got back from 3 days at Cape Disappointment in Washington State. It's where, this is not Canada history, but it's where Lewis and Clark spent part of their winter when they did their trek across the American continent in 1805, 1806. Beautiful, beautiful area, right on the ocean. So that was great. That's it.
You're lucky to be living in the Pacific Northwest because there's, basically unparalleled scenery in anywhere within an hour of probably where you are.
Yes, I keep telling everyone that, we're just a couple hours from the ocean. If we go east, where we can find the desert or we can find mountains, an hour north is a foreign country. And there is just so much to see and do here, and make the trek.
I gotta get my other half retired first, and then our plan is definitely to do a longer westward run. But
Okay.
it takes more than a couple of weeks to enjoy getting out there or even get out there.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for chipping in, Ray, and we'll put that on our bucket list.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, folks. Great to have you here. Thanks again to Karen for her presentation. And as always, we are inviting and looking forward to any of you who wish to present. And we'll see you next month, third Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we will look forward to seeing you in July. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
presentation.
Thanks,
Yes,
Doug.
Karen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen. Bye.